Hi, I'm Ariel Leon, and in this practice, I'm going to show you how to use a wall to find the strength and flexibility and alignment you need for handstand. So go ahead and make your way to a wall, but lie down on your back with your hands against the wall. And imagine you're doing a handstand. Extending your arms up over your head. See if you can get your fingernails to touch the floor. And your palms press into the baseboard. Then from there, imagine your rib cage is doing cat pose. Press your ribs into the ground. Lengthen through your tail. Imagine your lower back can also press into the floor. Feel your quads turn on and your glutes. And then press through your tippy toes with your big toes touching and your heels slightly separated. Now maintaining that, see if you can lift your right foot towards the ceiling. That same tippy toe action, that same press from the extended leg to the hands. And then we'll try the other leg. Go ahead and switch. Bringing the other foot towards the sky. Squeeze towards the midline, the sitting bones gathering in. Rib cage towards the floor. One more breath. Very nice. Now lower your legs, bend your knees so you can roll off to one side. And then come to standing. Now I'm going to use the wall for my hands. I'm going to place my hands on the wall at what I imagine is hip height. So the moment I let my head drop between my arms, it feels like I have a straight line from my hands to my hips. Now if you notice, it's hard to create a straight line because you're a little tight in the shoulders. This is going to be a great place for you to stretch and pause in your practice. When the shoulders start to open, then you can stack your bones and find your pose with more ease. That's not to say you can't get your handstand without the stack of your bones. It's just going to take a little more strength. Now, if the opposite is happening and you're back bending, that's going to be a pattern you're going to have to work with when you're in your handstand. And to counter that, you're going to draw the lower ribs in like you're doing cat pose. Feels like your armpits are sucking up into the shoulder joint. Now, lengthen through your tailbone, and then shift all the weight onto your right foot. Bend your knees slightly and extend your left foot like warrior three, back behind you. We were just doing this shape, lying on our back, but now you have much less surface area in contact with the floor. So can you find the alignment? Pressing through the tippy toes of your left foot, spiral them inward. Turn on the quad and the glute of your lifted leg. Feel the length of your tail, your low ribs drawing in, and then push firmly into the ball mounds of your hands and your fingertips. Awesome, give the other leg a try. With the left foot on the floor, a little bend in the left knee, straighten the right leg back behind you. Turning the toes in, fire up the muscles of the lifted leg, but imagine you could absorb the length of your right thigh bone into your hip socket, that feeling like the sitting bones are squeezing in. Draw the low belly in, resisting gravity's downward pull. One more breath. Awesome. Now with the feet on the floor, you can just push the wall away, rise on up. And we're going to turn this around. So I'm going to take my hands to the floor where my feet used to be, and eventually my feet will end up on the wall where my hands used to be. Now the setup of this is pretty important. So start with your feet flat against the baseboard, and then your knees directly beneath your hips. The hands come to the ground underneath your shoulders at shoulder distance apart, or a little bit wider if you're brand new to your handstand practice. That can be a little helpful. Now, the tendency is to have the hands a bit farther forward, so just make sure you have your hands directly underneath your shoulders, maybe a little bit farther back to counter that. And then like a cat pose, round the spine, let your head come down. Bring your knees together and bring your big toes together, keeping that connection. Imagine a downward facing dog, but a short one and with a rounded spine. Lengthen through your legs. Try to keep your shoulders over your wrists. Now this might be where you stay today, or we're going to walk the feet up onto the wall so the feet end up where the handprints used to be. Now this is where the hands start to walk out from under you because we're just trying to avoid that stack of the bones, but see if you can find the hands, armpits, hips without back bending, yeah? Let the low ribs draw in. Imagine the armpits sucking into the shoulder joint. Press into the big index finger knuckle, and then option here to lift your right foot towards the ceiling, just like we did before.
Look at your right toes. Don't let them disappear into a back bend. Spiral the thigh bone inward. Take one more breath, and then switch your legs. With the other foot in the sky, find that same internal rotation, stacking heel over hip, over armpit, over wrist. Take one last breath. Very nice. Reset. Now, if you're having a hard time with that version, keep working on it before going on to the next. The next one, we're going to turn it around. So in order to get into your handstand with your back up against a wall, you're going to have to find the power in your legs. Now, I don't want you to catapult yourself into the wall. I want you to use control, slow, controlled effort. So if this isn't working for you today, take a rest, come back to it tomorrow. If you're ready, we're gonna take the fingertips to the wall, the peace fingers, which are gonna line up on the baseboard. My hands are shoulder distance apart. I'm gonna do that cat pose in the spine, and then like a little down dog, I'm gonna come onto my toes and walk them in as close as I can. This is why it's best to do a few hamstring stretches before you practice your handstands, because the closer you can get your feet to your hands, the easier the transition, as well as when you come into a three-legged dog, the more you can lift the leg, then the easier it is to transition upside down. You're practically there. Now, with your lifted leg, imagine the line you're creating from that lifted foot all the way to the hand. See if you can find that handstand alignment on the one side, and then stick to it, commit to it. Draw the low ribs in, and use the power of the kicking foot to get you to the wall. Also, the power of the lifted hamstring. Now, look at your hands. Unless that makes you hit your head against the wall, then you just have to trust. As you exhale, push off the ground, rise up to the wall, and maybe you rebound back. That's okay. Let the fingertips come a little farther away from the wall. And try it again. Bouncing off the ground, find the wall, and then the big toes press into one another. The heels are not touching each other though. Squeeze your knees, activate your glutes, lift the hips away from the wall slightly by drawing your tailbone towards your feet, and then maybe the head can make contact with the wall like you're doing cat pose, and the ribs draw them in, and perhaps the heels hover a little for 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Now, if you can balance like that for about 60 seconds each day, that'll be great conditioning for you. Eventually, you'll come away from the wall. But another conditioning tool you can do is turning your face to the wall. So I'm going to show you this one. Practice at your own risk. It's great if you have room on either side of you so you can kind of cartwheel out. I'm going to start with my hands on the floor, and my feet are going to walk up the wall. As my feet walk up the wall, my hands walk closer to the baseboard. Now this is a little precarious, so don't do it if you're tired. Make sure your shoulders are ready to hold your weight. And then the forehead comes to the wall. The tops of the feet press into the wall, especially the pinky toenails. I'm checking in to feel my index finger knuckles pressing down, and then I'm going to slowly hug my low ribs in, up off the wall, just like that cat pose. I'm going to hold for a few. And then to come out, I'm going to do a sideways cartwheel. Ta-da! So those are a few orientations that you can practice, the alignment you need for your handstand. Practice those every day if you can, and then eventually we'll get you floating up in the middle of the room.